Good morning. The Blonde Brigade is here. I don't know if you can see and hear this on the live stream, but we got all the little blonde ladies up in the front. Y'all are so cute. I love you. I'm your biggest fan. And all the parents are back there like, space, please. Hey, welcome. Welcome, friends. We're so glad you're here. Good to see you this morning. Good to have you on the live stream. We would love if we could start by singing together. So as you are able, please rise or stand, and we'll start singing. What is buried, you can raise again. to see you move. There's resurrection power right here, it's breaking down. Let dead things come to life. Let dry bones come alive. The one who empties graves is here to do the same. Let dead things come to life. Let dry bones come alive. Come alive, come alive. Let dead things come alive. Come alive, come alive. Let dry bones come alive. Out of darkness, you brought victory. Tore the veil and made a way for me. Now I'm standing with the risen King, staring at an empty tomb. 'Cause Jesus, you're the living proof. There's nothing that you cannot do. I'm ready, God, to see you now. There's resurrection power right here, it's breaking down. Let dead things come to life. Let dry bones come alive. The one who empties graves is here to do the same. Let dead things come to life. Let dry bones come alive. Come alive, come alive. Let dead things come alive. Come alive, come alive. Let dry bones come alive. Come alive, come alive. Let dead things come alive. Come alive, come alive. Let dry bones come alive. Because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know he holds the future, and life is worth the living just because he lives. There's resurrection power right here, it's breaking down. Let dead things come alive. Let dry bones come alive. The one who empties graves is here to do the same. Let dead things come alive. Let dry bones come alive. Come alive, come alive. Let dead things come alive. Come alive, come alive. Let dry bones come alive. Come alive, come alive. Let dead things come alive. Come alive, come alive. Let dry bones come alive. You all sound great this morning, especially the front row. Do you guys think we should do a kids choir sometime soon? We're going to, don't worry. All right, y'all can have a seat.
Well, good morning, everybody. It is a pleasure to be with you on this absolutely gorgeous October morning. I'm going to give one more shout out to the kids up here, simply because we have actually, I don't know if you've noticed, we've added pews to be able to accommodate more and more people, the growing number of people. And it's kind of a joke that we add the number of pews because the front row is always going to be a buffer that nobody sits in. You grown-ups are being shown up by these little kids. So, good job, kiddos. My name's Jeremy. I'm the pastor here of the Grove, Cottage Grove, and we are a brand new church that seeks to grow goodness. So we hope that every interaction that you have with us, whether you're in person with us on a Sunday morning, whether you're watching online, whether you are interacting with us in some capacity throughout the week out in the community, that you are experiencing healing, wholeness, and beauty in your life.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jordan. I'm one of the worship leaders here at the Grove. I'd like to bring your attention to the worship bulletin that you got on your way in. On the inside, there's lots of great information. So I'd like to bring your attention to The bottom side, this is how you can give at the Grove. You can also do the traditional way of just putting the money in the basket when it comes through. Another thing is the worship insert. This is where you can give us your information and then request information about different things at the Grove on the back. The date today is October 2nd, so 10/2. I always forget that. And then this can also go in the basket as that comes around as well.
So the baskets are on the back table, right at the back of the worship center. So after the service, if you want to drop anything in there, that is the place to put them. And you can keep that out because we're going to be referring to this worship insert several different times at the beginning of the service this morning. I'm now going to direct you, though, to the back side of the worship insert for the 3 most important things to know about, pay attention to, and hopefully take some action upon this month. It is a new month, which usually means new worship folders. These are the exact same 3 as last month because they remain the 3 most important things. So the first one is the Pop-Up Pumpkin Patch, which is coming up in 2 weeks. This is our biggest event of the year. We now have almost 3,000 people who have RSVP'd in some capacity on Facebook. That doesn't mean that 3,000 people will be there, but it means that it is our biggest event of the year, and we need a lot of help to be able to pull that off. Fortunately, we already have a lot of folks who are signed up to help, but there's other opportunities. If you want to show up early, if you want to show up late, set up, tear down, if you want to be around and helping with the activities on the day of, if you want to be around people and interacting with people, if you want to sit back and not have to interact with anybody, we will find a spot for you to be able to volunteer and help us to be able to pull this event off. So if you are interested in signing up for helping with the Pop-Up Pumpkin Patch, you can scan that QR code. You can go to that URL there. Or if you have your worship insert and you turn it in later, if you check community events, we will follow up with you so that we get you connected to an opportunity that day. The second most important thing is our stewardship campaign. Once again, we've got 3 more weeks in our stewardship campaign, which is our yearly ask for commitments to our giving to our general fund, which allows us to do what we do, basically. If you're a part of this church, if you consider this church your church family, obviously you find this valuable for yourself. And hopefully you find it valuable to other people as well. And so giving specifically through making a commitment to this general fund allows us to continue to grow goodness in ourselves, in our community. So if you consider this your church home, we would highly value your commitment in that capacity. Next week, we're going to have some new materials that are going out that lay out a little bit more about what the giving campaign looks like for you on the other end. What your giving goes to, some stories of people who have connected with the Grove, Cottage Grove, and how giving helps them to create the experience that they have found compelling, and even a giving chart that lays out if you want to consider giving a percentage every single month of your income, here's what that would look like for you. Some really helpful materials. Again, you will either get those in the mail this coming week if you have a giving history, or they will be here available coming next Sunday. Last thing, Grove Groups. Grove Groups are the #1 place to learn, grow, and build meaningful relationships. As we continue to grow this little community, as this little community gets bigger, those meaningful relationships continue to be important, but it's harder and harder to do that on a Sunday morning. So Grove Groups, the intention is that you meet once a month with 8 to 12 people to get to know them really, really well, to be able to live life together. And again, we would encourage every single person who considers this their church home to sign up for a Grove Group. The discussion is going to be around what's happening in worship. There's no additional book, no additional reading, any of that stuff. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for you to be able to build these meaningful relationships. Grove Group signups go through this week. If you have not yet signed up for a Grove Group, do it this week. Do it this morning even. Scan that QR code. Go to that link, or you can check on the back of your worship insert, Grove Groups, and we will get you connected because those groups are going to be forming in the next week so that we can get you scheduled to have your first meetings by the end of this month. So, Grove groups, sign up for them. Kids.
Sweet. So kids are very valued here at the Grove, as you can see. So there's lots of different options for kids in worship. In the pews, you'll notice the clipboards with little activity sheets. Those can be used by adults as well. I like using them. Then we have the little wiggle space off to the side. So if your kids are planning on being in worship, that's just a space where they can continue to learn while we're talking and doing the message. And then also, we have a nursery and Grove Kids. So in a little bit, we'll sing a special song where all the kids will head on out to grow and learn. Usually we do a story, and then there's lots of different interactive activities that they can play and learn and grow in their relationships with each other. If it's your kid's first time, we just ask that you fill out one of these forms and have them bring it out to Grove Kids or the nursery with them, and then we just ask that they also wear the name tag. All this instruction is on the back of the card too, if you can't remember. Let's see if I missed anything. Nursery is 6 weeks to 3 years, and Grove Kids is 4 years to 5th grade. And today they're gonna head out, and then they're gonna come right back in before communion as well, so that they can participate in that.
And with that, we get to move into the introvert's least favorite part of the service. Again, building meaningful relationships is incredibly important as a new church because we're all new at this. And so we've built into our service this little time for you to be able to stand up, find somebody next to you that you don't know or don't know very well, to introduce yourself, and then discuss something. Well, we give the discussion prompt so that you introverts don't have to worry about what on earth you're going to talk about. So today's discussion prompt, sometimes we go really heavy, really deep. Today's question is, what's the worst Halloween candy? This is a very subjective type of question. What is the thing, if you are a parent, that you get in your kids' Halloween baskets that you're like, man, they're not going to eat it, and I'm certainly not going to eat it either. Or if you don't have kids, when you were a kid, what is one of the things that if you got in your basket, you're like, man, this is just going in the trash? All right, so a couple minutes, take an opportunity, stand up, find somebody next to you you don't know or don't know very well, introduce yourself, discuss that question.
This is a lively conversation. Y'all can finish up. Find your way back. All right, y'all. Sorry to break up the party. Come on back. Okay, what is the worst candy and why is it black licorice? Does anybody actually like black licorice? You think peanut butter cups is the worst? Gum. I agree with that. You don't like peanut butter cups? You can give yours to Lars because he was saying that's his favorite. Oh man, such a lively discussion. I love it. All right, kiddos, it's your turn. It's time to go out for Godly Play, so we'll sing them a little song as they go. Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world, every color, shape, and type, they are precious in His sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world. Awesome, thank you. And hey, thanks to our band. I don't know if y'all know, we have different people up here every week. I'm so grateful for all of them. Will you thank our guests today? We've been able to have so many fun musicians here week to week. It's fun. All right. If you are newish, newer, you may not know this, but our church has grown a lot since we started meeting weekly in January. I feel like we've probably, tripled in size? I would say, there's not as many people here this morning, but as a whole church, tripled in size in about 9 months, which is amazing, especially for a new church. With growth means that we need more hands on deck to help with different things on Sunday mornings and outside of Sunday mornings. Yeah, it should be on. Hello? Come closer to me. Snuggle up. So because we are growing as a church and we would love to have more involvement from people who call this their church home, we are doing this month of October what we're calling Sign Up to Serve Sundays. We're going to focus on a different volunteer team each week and let you meet the volunteer team lead and let you know a little bit about what the team does, what the roles are that we're sort of recruiting for, so that you have all the information you need to know which roles work best for who you are, because we don't want anybody signing up for something they hate, We want you to know what your options are so that everybody's enjoying themselves and signing up for something that's a good fit. So this morning, our team that we're focusing on, we're starting with this team because it is our smallest volunteer team so far, which means it's the one that we could use the most help with. And it is a team that is really important. You may not even really notice everything they do on a Sunday morning, but it's crucial to our Sunday morning experience. So, tell us who you are, what your team is.
Good morning. My name is Diana, and I am in charge of the hospitality team. So we get everything ready for Sunday morning. We greet you when you come in the door. You get a bulletin. We get the coffee ready, have snacks sometimes. Just making the space ready and welcoming for everybody who comes through our door.
Yeah, so kind of the welcome mat, the light on the front porch is on, there's a smiling face ready to greet you and make sure you have everything you need, which is really important, especially, those of you who have been first-time guests before, do you remember, it's intimidating going to a new church. You want to feel welcome and safe and confident that you know what you're doing and where to go and stuff like that. I will say, to your credit and to your team's credit, so much positive feedback over the last year. People who've come for the first time or guests have said, It was so welcoming, and that's huge. So can we thank hospitality for being so amazing and welcoming? And for coffee. 'Cause
Right.
don't we need that? Okay, how many separate roles are there on your team?
So there are 3 main areas that we have people sign up for. One is to be a door greeter. So you saw John this morning standing at the welcome desk. He said hello. If you had any questions, he helped answer them. He encouraged you to put a name tag on. So that's one of the areas. The second area is to stand at this door and pass out bulletins and greet people. Thank you, Tammy, for doing that this morning. And then we also have a kitchen helper. So getting the coffee started, getting the creamers out of the fridge, making sure the mugs are out, just getting our little counter set up. And then if we have treats, then we get those set out as well.
Awesome.
So those are the 3 main areas for hospitality.
Would you say that there are roles in hospitality for both people who want to be behind the scenes and people who are ready to be more interactive with other people?
Absolutely.
Introvert and extrovert roles?
Right. So I am both an introvert and an extrovert, but I've been standing at the welcome desk and greeting people, and even though I tend to shy away sometimes, it is really nice to greet people and get to know them. But if you're somebody who wants to just be in the background, the kitchen, doing the kitchen activities is a really good place for those individuals.
All right. And is there any prior experience necessary, any sort of prerequisites, or is this like a trainable thing?
Very trainable, and it's very short term. If you are helping, you come like half an hour, 40 minutes before the service to get everything ready, and then you stay maybe 15 minutes after to help get everything cleaned up, but we usually stay here a long time and talk anyway. So.
Yeah. Awesome. And what about different ages? Is this an adults-only position, or do you welcome youth as well?
I welcome all ages. I think Ellie helped, like last year or in the spring, and she's in first grade now. So any ages can help.
Yeah. Any particular roles in which you need the most help?
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah, just any area that you're willing to help in, we'll appreciate and welcome you.
Yeah. What would be like an ideal like if someone were serving regularly, what's like your ideal, how many times they're serving a month or something like that?
I would love if 1 time a month or even 1 time every 6 weeks, if we can get the team big enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a big commitment.
That's awesome. Okay, so I'm hearing hospitality is vital to what we do on Sunday mornings, but it's a simple role to jump into, like beginner level. Not devaluing what hospitality does, because it's very valuable, but it's if you've never served in any way before and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I can pass out a bulletin or I can make coffee or something, or say hi to some people, it's good for that, yeah?
Yes.
Cool. Sweet. Okay, so one more question I have for you that I didn't give you a heads up on.
I'm ready.
What is your favorite part of doing hospitality?
I love that being on hospitality, I know the names of almost everyone in the room. So that's very special to me that I can greet you by name if I've met you before and just catch up on things. I think that makes people feel welcome here and involved in the church.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Well, if you are interested in signing up for a hospitality role, then find Diana in the comments afterwards, and you can exchange contact info. If you're online today and you want to help out with hospitality in some way, just comment in the chat or send us a Facebook message or something, and we'll get you in touch with Diana. And you're only here for a short time after today, so if you're going to connect with Diana, do that first before she has to go. And let's give her one more big thank you. And the whole team.
You've heard me talk before about, and you will continue to hear me talk about the idea of welcoming the people who are arriving next. If you're a part of this church, you love this place, and we want other people to love this place as well. And so trying to envision the people who are arriving in the door behind us, and then doing what is necessary in order to welcome them is incredibly important. That's why we're focusing on signing up to serve this month. And hospitality is literally the first line that when you walk in the building, or even before you walk in the building, the things that we can be doing to welcome the people arriving next. Incredibly important. So thank you, Diana. One other thing, if you want to, if you don't have the chance to talk to Diana afterwards, but you want more information about hospitality, on that worship insert on the back, there's a volunteering opportunities box, and you can check it there too. And we will follow up with you about that. So, have you ever noticed that the world can kind of be awful, and that people can kind of be awful? I was reminded of that yet again this past week. It was not Hurricane Ian, which has just been ravaging the southern United States. Like, we're still figuring out how bad the impacts of that storm have been. It wasn't even that. It's not the war in Ukraine that continues to unfold, and we hear more and more about the horrors that are going on there. It's not just, or even all of the anti-trans legislation that's rolling out all over the country. The thing that really hit home, that reminded me again this past week about how awful the world can be and how awful people can be, are the stories, the reporting that's coming out about this guy, you may have heard of him, named Brett Favre. Any of you following this story? Yeah, Packers fans here? Brett Favre was my hero growing up. I grew up in Northwest Wisconsin. The Packers were everything. My dad continues to talk about the Packers in the first person plural, the we. We, in referring to the Packers. Maybe you're like that with Vikings or some other team. You talk about we as if you're actually a part of the team. The Packers were we. And growing up at that time, Brett Favre was the Packers for me. I didn't know anything other than Brett Favre for the Packers. And not only did he define the Packers, but he defined all of football for me, which was my favorite sport by far. He was reckless. Now, sometimes that was good, sometimes that was bad, but at the very least it was fun and entertaining. He did crazy things that you never would have expected. He just looked like he was a kid out there having fun. He seemed like a down-to-earth guy. I mean, he wore Wranglers, folks. So Brett Favre was like my hero of all heroes. And yet, as we've been hearing more about the reporting of what this guy's been up to over the last several years, it seems like this hero was actually a little bit more of an anti-hero. I'm not going to dig into all of the details, but you know that line about Robin Hood where he would steal from the rich and give to the poor? Brett Favre apparently was engaged in lots of different activities where, he actually took from the poor and the sick in the nation's poorest state and redirected many of those funds towards the rich and the powerful. Not great. The world can be awful and people can be awful. And in a situation like that, or those other examples that I gave of the world being awful and people being awful, or any number of things that you might think of when I mention that, it's super easy to be cynical. Be like, the world is always awful. All people are awful. And just to have that outlook on everything in life and look forward to tomorrow and think, man, it is not going to be any better than today. But maybe that doesn't have to be the case. Today, rather than just simply looking forward like that, focusing on what's awful now and then looking forward, today what we're going to be talking about is memory and remembering. And remembering the past, remember the good things that have happened, that have been done for us, and in remembering, resisting the temptation to settle into that cynicism about the world as it is. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And in order to do that, we're going to be reading from Psalm chapter 118, or Psalm 118, depending on how you want to frame it. But we're going to be doing something a little bit different. It's a little bit interactive. Those of you who have grown up in like traditional church circles, this might not be too unfamiliar to you. If you have no church background or more maybe contemporary church backgrounds, this might be a little bit newer to you, but we're going to get interactive a tiny bit, okay? So rather than me just standing up here and reading the text from Psalm 118, what I'm going to do is we're going to put it up here on the screen, and there's going to be, the lines are going to be either regular text or bolded and underlined. So what I want you to do as we are reading it together is I will read the regular text, and then I want all of you to read the bolded and the underlined. Make sense? Before we do that, though, there's 3 unfamiliar words that we're going to come back to later that I want to give you the pronunciations of, so that when you get to them, you might fumble over them anyways, and that's okay. They're Hebrew. But when you get to them, you maybe have a little bit more of an indication of how to say them. So the first one is Yahweh, which is pronounced Yahweh. Can you say that? Yahweh, okay? That's number 1. The second one is Hesed, okay? And then the last one is Yeshua, okay? Yahweh, Hesed, Yeshua. Again, we will come back to those in a few minutes. I'll explain what those are, but they're going to be in the text that we're reading together. We're going to read this together. 29 verses. They're shorter verses, so it should go quickly. But once again, I will read the regular text, and then all of us will do the bolded and underlined, okay? Ready? Here we go. Give thanks to Yahweh, for they are good, and their hesed endures. Let Israel say, yes, their hesed endures. Let the family of Aaron say, yes, their hesed endures. Let the loyal followers of Yahweh say, yes, their hesed endures. In my distress, I cried out to Yahweh. Yahweh answered me and put me in a wide open place. Yahweh is on my side. I am not afraid. What can people do to me? Yahweh is on my side as my helper. I look in triumph on those who hate me. It is better to take shelter in Yahweh than to trust in people. It is better to take shelter in Yahweh than to trust in princes. All the nations surrounded me. Indeed, the name of Yahweh, I pushed them away. They surrounded me, yes, they surrounded me. Indeed, in the name of Yahweh, I pushed them away. They surrounded me like bees, but they disappeared as quickly as a fire among thorns. Indeed, in the name of Yahweh, you got it. You aggressively attacked me. Oh, let's go back. You aggressively attacked me and tried to knock me down, but Yahweh helped me. Yahweh gives me strength and protects me. They have become my Yeshua. They celebrate deliverance in the tents of the godly. Yahweh's right hand conquers. Yahweh's right hand gives victory. Yahweh's right hand conquers. I will not die but live, and I will proclaim that Yahweh has done. Yahweh severely punished me, but they did not hand me over to death. Open for me the gates of the just king's temple. I will enter through them and give thanks to Yahweh. This is Yahweh's gate. The godly enter through it. I will give you thanks, for you answered me and become my Yeshua. The stone that the builders discarded has become the cornerstone. This is Yahweh's work. We consider it amazing. This is the day Yahweh has brought about. We will be happy and rejoice in it. Please, Yahweh, deliver. Please, Yahweh, grant us success. May the one who comes in the name of Yahweh be blessed. We will pronounce blessings on you in Yahweh's temple. Yahweh is God, and he has delivered us. Tie the offering with ropes to the horns of the altar. You are my God, and I will give you thanks. You are my God, and I will praise you. Give thanks to Yahweh, for they are good, and their hesed endures. Give yourselves a hand. Woo. And give Robin a hand, too. I did not tell her we were going to be doing this. So she had to try to follow along, not just with me, which she has to do every week, but follow along with all of you as well. All right, as you can tell, the reason I had you do that wasn't just so that we would have a little bit of interactivity, but as you can tell, it has like a sing-songiness, right? There's like a back and forth. There's a call and response that is very clear just as we are reading it in an English translation, right? Well, this text is a part of what's known as the Egyptian Hallel. It continues to be a part of a text that is read every year in the Jewish festival of Passover. And it's read in community. It's not just one person reading from up front. It is the community in their celebration of Passover, this miraculous event where God freed his people from slavery in Egypt, brought them into new life in their land of promise. They would say this together. They continue to say this together as an act of remembrance, as an act of resistance against the world, as it is against the cynicism of the world that just says everything is awful. And so in having you do it, the idea is that, all right, we're participating in the same thing as the author of this text maybe intended hundreds and hundreds of years ago. That we remember and we resist the cynicism of the world as it is and point towards hope going forward. Now, again, I want to go back to those three words that we broke down a little bit and that you had to struggle through. And of course, I made you say all three of them. Thank you very much. The first one is Yahweh. So in retelling this story and in rehearsing this song, the idea was that not just that the people of Israel would remember this event that happened, but also the one who brought them through this. So Yahweh is not just a word. Yahweh is a name. Yahweh is the name of the covenant God of Israel. Sometimes, if you read an English translation, it will say the Lord. The word that's used there is Yahweh. This is not just any God. At this time, there were lots of different gods, especially in Egypt. They had lots of different gods. But Yahweh was a very specific God, the God of kept promises. So they would retell this story. They would re-sing this song together in community to proclaim their connection to this God who kept promises, even and especially when the world was awful. So that's word number one. Word number two is hesed. This is sometimes translated as loving loyalty or covenant promises. But really what hesed is God's promises that are kept. So in the retelling and the re-singing of this story, it wasn't just about the God who kept promises, but those promises that were actually kept. You'll notice this was used a few different times, but the same line that includes hesed appears at the very beginning of the song and the very end. Yahweh's hesed endures. It's almost as if the writer is insisting that when we remember God, when we remember Yahweh, when we remember this God of kept promises, we begin and end every single time with God's goodness and God's faithfulness, even and especially when the world is awful. So that's word number two. The last word is Yeshua. So Yeshua is an interesting word because it can either be a common noun or a proper noun. You know what that means? So it can either be referring to a general category or it can be referring to a specific thing or specific person. So Yeshua is often translated deliverer. So there can be a deliverer, like a type of of thing, a type of person, or it can be the deliverer. So as this story was retold, as this song was resung, they were reminding themselves that God was not only a God of kept promises, but was a deliverer in their past and would continue to deliver for them. However, as a proper noun, which is a name, this name gets picked up hundreds of years later by a person, given to a person. You might be a little bit more familiar with this person and with their Greek name, but their Hebrew name, Yeshua, their Greek name, anybody know? Jesus. So the people of Israel have this history, have this story, have this song they continue to retell about of God who keeps promises, about the Hesed, the promises that are kept, and the fact that this God is a deliverer. And hundreds of years later, on the scene comes Jesus, Yeshua, who is a further fulfillment of God as deliverer, the God who keeps promises, the God who sets people free, even and especially when the world and people can be kind of awful, right? So again, why do we do this? Why do we tell this? Why did I have you recite it? Why do the Jewish people retell this story, sing these songs every single year? Why do we retell these stories that we have in this Bible, this library of books from thousands of years ago? Why do we continue to tell them over and over again? Why do we bring our kids out every single week and retell them these stories? We do it because it's important to remember. It's important to rehearse. It's important to do it over and over and over again. It's important to do it together because repeating is an act of remembering and resisting against the cynicism that says this is how the world will always be. And it's remembering the God of promise, the promises kept, and the deliverance that might come through remembering those promises. It's easy to tiptoe into that cynicism or fall face first into that cynicism. But I think that we have an opportunity to be a community that remembers and hopes. We've been talking this past month, about the change in seasons, and the change in seasons as an opportunity and an excuse to do things differently or to return to the things that we had been intending to do all along. As we change seasons here in Minnesota, we go into fall. I'll speak for myself. When we go into fall, I like fall, but I'm constantly thinking about winter and how terrible winter is going to be. Remembering, the act of remembrance, the change in seasons doesn't have to be focusing on the bad stuff up ahead, right? The change in seasons can be an opportunity, an excuse to remember and to resist that cynicism. So as we move into this new season of the year, as we move into this season as a church, we can remember, we can resist that cynicism. We have an opportunity to become that stone that was rejected, that suddenly becomes the thing that holds it all together. We can be the ones that stand out as the weird ones who still have hope, even and especially when the world and people seem awful. So I'm going to have you do one more interactive thing. You don't have to interact with anybody around you. You're welcome. As we wrap up today, I'm actually going to have you close your eyes, and I'm going to have you put your hands out in front of you. If you've been around here at the Grove at all, you know that we don't dance around the difficult stuff. And one of the things that I do not want to do today, and I don't want you to hear today, is us dancing around the difficult stuff and just say, just remember the good stuff, just remember the hope. And so this is going to be an interactive action of acknowledging the difficult stuff, holding it in your hands, and then grasping on and claiming the good stuff as well. So as you have your hands out in front of you, I want you to actually think about the awful stuff. I want you to think about the uncertainty, about the anxiety, the things that are making you mad, the things that are making you sad. And as you have your hands open, acknowledging those things, I want you to feel them, feel the weight in your hands of them. And then acknowledging Yahweh, God of promise, Hesed, those promises kept, Yeshua, deliverance from these things. I want you to feel those things lifting out of your hands, that weight that is there and present, no longer holding you down. And as you continue to have your hands open, I want you now to imagine the good stuff. I want you to remember. Remember the good stuff. Remember the stuff that God has done in and through your life in the past 6 years, past year, the past week, maybe even the past 24 hours. What happy memories do you take with you? It could be big things, it could be small things. And as you remember those things, I want you again to imagine them as weight in your hands. But then rather than releasing them, I want you to close your hands into fists. You are grasping on, we are grasping on to those memories as promises of hope. That uncertainty, that anxiety, that sadness, that anger that might still be there. And we still hang on to our memories as promises of hope in God. And you can open your eyes. I don't know about you, but hopefully that was a helpful practice for you. Hopefully that maybe initiated a little bit of healing and experience of those promises in your hands. And hopefully what this means as we do this practice ourselves, as we retell these stories, as we re-sing these songs, that we are reminded of God's goodness, that we become a community that remembers and resists the world as it is, that we can be the fulfillment of those stones that have been rejected, that seem like they don't fit, that then become what holds everything together. Well, may that be so. And as we wrap that, and as we talk about remembering and looking forward with hope, we now move into what is known as a time of communion. You might know it as the Lord's Supper or as the Eucharist. In the final moments that Jesus had with his followers, he gathered with them around a table, and they were celebrating a meal together. That meal had several different layers of remembrance, like on top of each other. First, they were gathering together around this meal of remembrance, remembering the Passover, remembering this event in their people's history when God acted decisively for God's people. They were remembering and retelling that story of freedom from slavery in Egypt on towards new life in the land of promise. And yet, as Jesus was retelling this story, he changed the elements a little bit and changed the focus a little bit, looking forward to what he was going to be going through. He said, in the next 24 hours, you're going to see me arrested, you're going to see me killed. And what I would like you to do in my absence is to continue to do this thing. Continue to celebrate this meal together with these elements as an act of remembrance. So first, he took a loaf of bread and he broke it in half and said, imagine that this is my body, which is about to be broken for you. Do this over and over and over again, and as you do it, do so in remembrance of me. And then he took that cup and said, imagine this cup is like my blood poured out for you for the forgiveness of sins. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and you drink this cup, you proclaim, you remember, you resist the cynicism and focus on the world and the hope that is yet to come. So in just a moment, I will invite you all forward to participate in this. These continue to be COVID times, believe it or not. So we are continuing to do we're going to continue to do single servings of our communion elements. So we'll have you come up, and one by one we'll say a blessing over you, hand you one of these cups. At the top of the cup, there's a layer of film. You can peel it off, and there's a small wafer. It is a gluten-free wafer. So if you have a gluten allergy or sensitivity, you do not have to worry about that. You are welcome to participate. You then rip off the next layer, and it is grape juice in there. It is not wine, so if you are in recovery, you are welcome to participate as well. The other thing that we remind people of is that everybody is welcome. It is not our table to reject anyone. It is the Lord's table, and all are welcome, including our littlest ones, right? You don't have to be an adult. You don't have to be a member of this church. You do not have to have it all figured out. It's one of the best ways to experience the grace of God is to experience it, even and especially when the world seems awful. So I invite all of you to come up and participate in this meal of remembrance. We'll have Jordan join me up here. She'll come over here. We'll have 2 stations, and you may come when you're ready.
Come thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mount I'm fixed upon it, mount of thy redeeming love.
I was lost in utter darkness till you came and rescued me. I was bound by all my sin when your love came and set me free. Now my soul can sing a new song. Now my heart has found a home. Now your grace is always with me, and I'll never be alone. Oh, to grace, how great a debtor daily I'm constrained to be. Let thy grace, Lord, like a fetter, bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it, prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, Lord, take and seal it for thy courts above. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it, prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, Lord, take and seal
we'll sing together today is a song of remembrance. It's a modern song, relatively speaking, but it's a song that references all of these stories that, like, we belong to a faith that has story after story after story, millennia old, of how times are hard, life is tough, but God is always there to renew it again. So would you all stand with us and sing this song?
I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. And you came along and put me back together, and every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. Sing that again. Oh, there's nothing. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. Now I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, 'cause you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. There's not a place your mercy and grace will find me in. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing, oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. One more time. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, we gotta do it one more time. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh,
last chorus. What was the line, Katie, about the number of choruses?
Times Jesus.
When you don't know how many choruses there is going to be, you say it's chorus times Jesus. However long it feels like it should go. It was so good to be with you. So good to sing with you. Your beautiful voices on this beautiful morning. It's so good to be a church with you. If you are looking for a church, we would love to be your church and to have you contribute to helping us grow community, grow community, but grow goodness in and through us. As we go, I've got 2 quick announcements, quick reminders. Number 1 is Grove Groups. Folks, today, sign up today. And if not today, tomorrow, but preferably today, so that we can start assembling these groups in the next week to get them launched by the end of the month. And then secondly, next Sunday following the service, it's the second Sunday of the month, which tends to be our Grove gatherings, which means we have something fun and interactive afterwards. Next week, we are doing a pizza and partner gathering, which basically is we're going to regather in this room and talk in depth about the Grove. We're going to talk about what it means to follow Jesus, what the Grove is like, what our denomination is like, and then what it means to be a partner. If you are interested in learning more about that, all of those details, we'd encourage you to show up stay afterwards. We're going to order pizza, so we'll provide lunch for, oh my goodness, pizza! It will be worth your time if you're interested in that stuff. It's not just content. We've done this once before, and it was a lot of fun. So it will be worth your time to show up and then stay afterwards for pizza, but also for the content. All right. Now, as we go, you're already standing, so I'll have you extend your hands once again to receive the blessing as we go out into this beautiful world and enjoy the rest of this day. May we be people of memory, remembering what God has done for us in the past and faithfully following Jesus into the unfamiliar. And may we be people of hope, trusting that God, the keeper of promises and our deliverer, will help us. The stones which the builder discarded become the cornerstones. May that be so.